Welcome to the Geek 101 podcast, the Mandalorian Recap and Review, Episode 8, The Redemption. Come on, baby, do the magic hand thing. I'm Ariel Rada.
And I'm Andy Bowman.
And we are wrapping up our discussion on The Mandalorian with Episode 8, the final episode of the season. This quick bit of news, we know that The Mandalorian Season 2 will be coming out in fall 2020, as per Jon Favreau, director and showrunner.
I mean, completely makes sense.
Yeah, so before we get into the episode itself, what are your thoughts on the criticisms behind the Disney Plus rollout schedule?
I mean, we always knew that there were going to be growing pains. You know, Disney has all these plans, but they're taking their time. I think they're relying on their entire back catalog to satisfy people in between these, rollouts.
Yeah, I'd agree with that, yeah.
I think it kind of shows that they really didn't take it seriously, planning out, new content until a little too late in the game, but it also shows that they are taking the quality of that content very seriously.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people are criticizing them that, it's going to be dead for a while, people are going to cancel it, and I truly believe that their core audience is not going to cancel Disney Plus for a couple of months. It's just...
I mean, I got the full year. I just went ahead and got the annual year.
I got the 3-year.
Yeah, for $150, right?
Yeah. It's just it is interesting because I think certainly the fringes may dip, when there's no Marvel or Star Wars, whatever. And Disney's just like who cares? Like we want to have the family market. And I think if anybody who has a kid, or more, obviously, is thinking, do I need Disney Plus or do I need Netflix? The answer is I need Disney Plus.
Right. Ariel, quick question here.
Sure.
How much does it cost to run a movie on YouTube?
To run a movie on YouTube?
Rent a movie.
Like $5.
Okay. How much is a month of Disney Plus?
Like 11.
No, it's 6.
Oh, it's 6? The base is 6?
Yeah.
Oh my God. Wow. That's awesome.
Yeah. See, like that's the thing. It's half the price of Netflix.
Yeah, I think the Netflix base is it's like $15. But then Disney Plus, but you need to pay more to have the 4 screens, right?
Yeah. I think the Netflix base is $12, but it's $6.99 a month or $70 a year for Disney Plus.
Right.
I think this criticism are people forgetting how much it costs to rent a movie, versus how many movies you can stream on Disney Plus, and they're also the same people who don't quite get that Disney is going to be disappearing from Netflix.
Yeah, and so here's a couple of things. One, when I boot up Netflix, I don't know what's going to be there. When you boot up Disney Plus, you know exactly what movies are going to be there all the time. I don't have to boot up Disney Plus and think, man, is like, did they take off, I don't know, Iron Man 2? Did they take off Toy Story 3? Did they take, you open up Disney Plus and you're like, they'll never take this off. They own it. It's theirs. There's no reason to ever take it off.
Right. And that's the thing, is this content only going to be growing. As they find out what the demand actually is, they're going to be able to start creating new content for it. Right. This is just growing pains, and I feel like people just want a reason to kind of take a crap all over it because, they're armchair, they're very much like us. They're armchair analysts.
Right, yeah. But yeah, let's get into episode 8 of The Mandalorian, The Redemption. We left The Mandalorian and his crew, Cara Dune and Apollo Creed, in dire straits against the Empire. Baby Yoda was captured, And all seem lost. And of course, in this episode, we are treated to IG-11, saving Baby Yoda, helping save the crew, finding that some of the Mandalorians had been killed. And ultimately, the episode ends with the Mandalorian getting his sigil and leaving the planet in looking to reunite Baby Yoda with his people.
I've got bad news for the Mandalorian.
Go on.
There are no people for Baby Yoda.
Do we know that?
I mean, we don't know it. And we certainly, canon's been completely shifted, so. But I feel like it's going to be very difficult in a very large universe to find Baby Yoda's parents.
Yeah, so we don't know. I'm here on Wikipedia. We don't even know. They've never even named Yoda's species.
Right. The only two members besides the child are Yoda and Yaddle.
Yeah, and I didn't like the introduction of Yaddle in the prequel trilogy. It was weird. I think. Wait, when does this take place?
After episode 6.
Yeah, but how far after episode 6?
I would say 10 years, but I have no idea.
Let's take a look here. How far? Okay. 25 years prior to the events of The Force Awakens. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
This is dang. This to me, this is so much more fascinating than anything that happens in The Force Awakens. Or not just like the sequel trilogy, right?
Right.
There's a lot of awesome setup in The Force Awakens, and of course we all know now that it doesn't quite, they don't quite stick the landing. At the very least.
You haven't seen it yet, Ariel. You can't comment.
I know, maybe tomorrow. I will see it in one of the next 2 days, being the 30th and 31st of December.
Okay. Ariel, I will tell you right now.
Uh-huh.
It's fun, just accept what it is.
Yeah, I needed my expectations lowered before going in.
Oh, they've been lowered.
Yeah, they have indeed. My own, I'm a little frustrated because you almost pigeonhole yourself with your outcomes, your number of outcomes, because The Force Awakens exists.
Yeah.
Because you've set it in this era in between. Now, strangely enough, you could have had this exact same series, except you just change anytime they talk about the Empire, you call them the First Order. If everything else was the same, this thing works, and it's so much more interesting because you have no idea what's going to happen with Baby Yoda. But in a world where The Force Awakens doesn't exist and the sequel trilogy doesn't exist, there is speculation that Baby Yoda makes his way to Luke.
I don't like that.
It's a logical outcome.
Yeah, I guess so. But we will see. Let's talk about the first scene of this episode because it's amazing. And it's also, threatening to cancel Jason Sudeikis.
Oh, yeah. So Jason Sudeikis plays one of the scout troopers.
Yes, Jason Sudeikis and Adam Pally.
So what happens if you just for some reason listen and don't watch is they hit Baby Yoda, of course, and everyone's like, it was an awesome way to expand the universe in a way that had never been done before.
Yeah. This is like almost like a Saturday Night Live skit, but it makes sense.
Yeah. Yes. Real quick, it reminds me of the scene where the two stormtroopers are like talking and they like turn the corner and Kylo Ren is like smashing like the wall. Like that's what it reminds me of. It's so funny.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the exact skit I was thinking of, the undercover boss with Kylo Ren.
Yeah. I heard he's jacked.
But yeah, they're having a basic conversation like, okay, we've got it. What do we do with this thing? And just waiting to hear back from the Moff Gideon, played by Giancarlo Esposito.
Excellent. He's excellent in this.
Oh, absolutely. But one of them didn't get to see Baby Yoda, and he wants to see Baby Yoda. He's like, open it up. I want to see it. Like, no, I'm not gonna take him out of the thing. The thing hasn't moved in like a little while.
A minute. He goes, a minute.
It's been longer than a minute. What if he needs water?
Yeah, I certainly think that Taika Waititi, who directed Chapter 8 Redemption, had a hand in creating the dialogue and tone of that scene.
Oh yeah, especially when they finally get radio contact with the guy directly under Moff Gideon, and the great line of, well, how long is it going to be? Well, he just executed somebody for interrupting him.
Yeah.
Interrupting him, so it might be a while. And the whole thing of like, oh, he did just kill a bunch of his own men in the other episode.
I do like that they answered that question right away.
Yeah. That
they were his men. They were part of his troop. He's just a war criminal.
Yeah. It's brilliant. The scene is just probably the funniest thing in the entire series so far.
Yeah, that and the the magic hand thing,
which we'll get to later. It just made everything feel a lot more real to me. Like, these are two people who are actually just doing their job. They're sitting around bored and they don't know what to do. They, and they have a little bit of a rapport with each other.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. Yeah. What else about this episode really caught your eye?
Dude, IG-11 his storming the town and how that was shot, I thought was so much better than the action scene in episode 1.
Yeah, I have to totally agree with you there. I think I had a little bit of criticism for his action scene in episode 1. Also directed by Taika Waititi, if I'm not mistaken.
No.
Oh, it wasn't.
No, IG-11 is just voiced by Taika Waititi.
Oh, okay. It was probably Jon Favreau then. I'm looking here. It is directed by Dave Filoni. Okay. Dave Filoni's not a great director. He's not. I mean, if you watch the Clone Wars, if you watch this, he's got my least favorite episodes. Chapter 1, the action's not good. It's an okay setup. Chapter 5, the Gunslinger, that's, I think, the worst episode of the series. So okay, but the worst of a good batch, of a decent to good batch. Because that one, he's just like, he literally just stands around just shooting and like twisting and shooting, right?
Right.
But this one, they make him dynamic. They use his humor. They use the humor in a funny way where it's just like, oh, that was a joke, blah blah blah, to put you at ease. But yeah, excellent action from Taika Waititi, who's proved he can do it, right, with Thor Ragnarok.
Yeah. And it's the reason why, like, this dude is a workhorse, Ariel. If you've seen how much work he has, like, he just did Jojo Rabbit. He does some work on the What We Do in the Shadows, the TV show. He's got, the next Thor. He has a movie about the American Samoa soccer team coming up called Next Goal Wins. Wow. Like, he's just a workhorse. He's got a series. It's a TV show called Reservation Dogs that's going to be shot on a reservation kind of near me.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And he's like, he's like native New Zealand, right? Is his background part of his?
Yeah, he's part Maori.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, he's also got his acting role in The Suicide Squad and Free Guy coming out later this year and next year.
Yeah, he's one of the best, like weirdly up and coming, even though he's incredibly successful right now. But it happened at the end of the decade.
Right. He's Edgar Wright. He's the next Edgar Wright, I think.
Yeah, I really loved What We Do in the Shadows. I haven't seen any of his other films, and I'd really like to rectify that. But you're watching that, and you're like, okay, I get it. This is kind of funny. And then like, the scene where they like bring the people over for dinner, like after that, it's just like a roller coaster, like a snowball of hilarity.
Just, people always ask us why we want virgins.
You can't finish.
Yeah. That line is just so funny. Please, by all means, people, check out What We Do in the Shadows. We'll be mentioning it on this week's main episode in the best of the year, though. So
yes, yeah, for sure. We do get what was I going to say? Oh, we get a little bit of Mando's backstory. It's simple, I think, but it's really effective and it really works.
We also get his name and how terrifying Moff Gideon is at the same time.
Yeah, it's so effective. So here is a bit of a waste in regards. I think they do 80% of the show's world building in this one episode. And the reason why episodes 4, 5, and 6, I think were so frustrating to both you and I and many others, is that there is no world building in those 2 episodes. There's so much Jedi lore. There's so much Mandalorian backstory and lore. And you have 2 of the most mysterious and well-crafted backstory people groups in this show. It's not like Rogue One, right? Where it's like, hey, you have Rebels, you have Empire. That's it. And you do nothing to expand upon the lore of those characters. You do a little bit in 1, 2, and 3 with the Mandalorian, and then you do a lot in this episode with him. And presumably we'll get more with Jedi and after.
Right. And we even get the beautiful little bit of the Jedi being the enemy of the Mandalorians.
Yeah, and historically that you see that in Clone Wars, you see it in Rebels, I think at times.
Yeah. It was so refreshing to have, first of all, to have Jedi be said.
Right? Yes, by the perfect person too, I think.
Right. And it's not something, so I'm playing Jedi Fallen Order right now, and you're working at the very beginning. You're working on a scrap planet, like that takes apart things, and immediately one of the guys like, "Oh man, those Jedi and their force powers, man, that's crazy." And he's just a normal guy.
Yeah, and it holds more weight when the Forger says it. In regards to. So, we'll get to the end later. What else in the meat of this episode is worth mentioning?
Well, besides just the great humor, I think the great setup, like, one thing that this episode did that I loved, when Moff Gideon introduces himself, but they set up the weapon.
Yeah.
Right? And he describes the weapon, and my friends who are Star Wars nerds, they know the ship types, they know the gun types, like they love this stuff. That was such great fan service, but also showing you how and why it's not just a blaster. There's something a little different about this one.
Yeah, it's like a repeater. You see the fear in Cara Dune's face as she sees it. He even mentions it's like a new model.
Yeah. He was like, oh. And also, did we know that Cara Dune was from Alderaan?
No, we did not.
Right.
We did not.
So, like, that that scene where he just says exactly who everyone in the tavern is. Like, that is terrifying.
It's frightening, yeah. Yeah, I gotta agree with you there. It's frightening.
I really love Carl Weathers' turnaround from being. I really love each characters turn around from being just a character of the week to, I feel like next season they're going to be part of the crew.
Yeah, and so they try to play off of that with like more weight behind the characters and putting them in danger. I never felt it because it's like we should have had more of them, given what we had in 4, 5, and 6. Right, 3 episodes of filler. Like, I feel like we should have had more of Carl Weathers' character, Cara Dune, and IG-11. Because even when, what's his name, who voiced by the character who dies? Gosh,
Nick Nolte.
Bad. Nick Nolte's character. I've got the name here. Queel.
Yeah.
It doesn't hit you hard.
No, that was the easiest one to kill.
Yeah, it doesn't hit you hard because we don't care. In something like Supernatural, you know, they have a reputation of killing off characters, but they build those characters through seasons, through long seasons, and it works, and it hits you so hard every time they kill one of the 50 billion people they've killed. It's fascinating, right? 4 or 5 appearances, and you're just like, oh, I can't believe this person's gonna die. And in this one, I just didn't care when IG-11 blew up. I didn't care when Queel died. I didn't care that Cara Dune. Like, it's just, I cared about the Forger. You know why? Because the Forger was in 3 or 4 episodes. She served such a great purpose. She served as a lore builder. But yeah, it was really, I think the fact that we got 80% of the show's world building, or not world building, but like background myth, lore introduction in this episode, I think it's a huge mistake for the season. I mean, do you agree? Like, I think there was 3 whole episodes that should have had lore.
Yeah, I would love that, and I think that Disney might not realize that that's what Star Wars fans crave.
Yeah, we don't just want... I think it's what prevented something like Rogue One from being pretty good. You know, it went from... or prevented it from being more than pretty good. Excuse me.
Okay, I was about to say, Ariel, we're going to have some words.
I'm higher than most on Rogue One.
Right. No, I get it. Star Wars fans, you know, if you're not going to give us something completely new, don't just have a drama that is set in this world, not taking advantage of any of the unique aspects of this entire world that's been created.
Yeah, and that is going back to the sequel trilogy. Like, The Force Awakens didn't have a ton of lore building, but one, it was a callback to the original trilogy. It was an introduction movie, and it had to set up what we thought was going to be lore and world building. And then The Last Jedi, which takes place over like 2 days, does no world building. No. In fact,
it does the opposite sometimes.
It does the opposite. It literally tells you, kill the past. But that's not what Star Wars is about. Star Wars has to remind you that the past is important, that it has a place. And if you don't learn from the past, you're going to repeat the past. I think that was the absolute lesson of The Force Awakens and every other movie we got. And so it was such a strange, departure of thesis. And people love it for that. Great. But I think you're right, like Andy, like the reason why Star Wars has maintained its cultural relevance is because George Lucas created a world and threw us in it. And the fans that were also writers and creators and world builders decided to expound on it with the extended universe. Some of it was great, some of it was awful, but we ate it up because this is the lore. This is the magic. Something like Harry Potter, right? They always want more. It's terrible. And yet if you give us a promise of a good Harry Potter movie, series, book, whatever, that builds on the lore that J.K. Rowling scratched the surface of, we want more of it. I can't think of too many examples of worlds that were built that were successfully able to expand on lore.
Right. So in many ways, this episode is just like, oh, it's finally living up to its promise, especially with the one visual flare that happens at the last scene. Ariel, I don't know if you were excited as I was about the item that was in the last scene.
Yes, the dark saber.
You're right, or I think it's a vibroblade, but it could be a dark saber.
Oh, you don't know.
Right.
No, it is the dark saber. So, I'm going to nerd out a little bit, guys, here.
Please.
In the Clone Wars series and in Rebels, you meet a Mandalorian terrorist leader called Pre Vizsla. He is an extremist in Mandalore. Mandalore tried becoming a planet of peace and he kind of refused that. He wields a black lightsaber, which was created and wielded by the first Mandalorian Jedi character named Tar Vizsla, I think it is, who's basically like the old lead of his house and the old lead of the Mandalorians. And he was, like I mentioned, a Jedi Mandalorian. Probably, if you look historically, one of the more lethal and powerful Jedi in history, I would wager. And so the leader of this house, Vizsla, wields the dark saber, and he's trying to use it to claim his leadership over the planet of Mandalore. And in Clone Wars, he combats Obi-Wan and he combats Darth Maul at times. But ultimately, this is a blade with a kyber crystal, but a black blade.
Perfect. See, I was just excited that it might be a vibroblade, which we've seen in video games, but to see in a live action scenario, that alone was cool enough for me to tell my wife that's what this show should be doing constantly.
I do think we get a vibroblade in episode 2. A knife. I don't know if you remember.
Yes.
With Jon Favreau's big Mando. So Dave Filoni was in charge of the shows that introduced the dark saber or whatever it's called.
Right, but we're still getting a live action version of that, and that is awesome.
Yeah. So one of my roll my eyes is that you watch this guy, this just regular Mandalorian, able to wield lightsabers with Obi-Wan. And it's one of those things where the show and the movies are just man, in the movies, Obi-Wan is one of the 5 best saber guys. And here's this one dude with no force powers able to lock swords with him. But that's neither here nor there. The dark saber is really cool. It's got that black galaxy blade and the white outline to it. There is some precedence to it because we also see Ahsoka Tano with white lightsabers and white kyber crystals. I just think most Jedi like to use the blue or green.
Yeah. I mean, those are my preferred colors when I'm playing the Star Wars video games. Typically, the black with void of it's so cool.
Yeah. So apparently, in Rebels, we do see the dark saber, and I'd love to watch Rebels and figure out what happened to it, what happens to it in Rebels, and what how we end up with Moff Gideon having it. Yeah. Anything else about this show?
I mean, let's talk about the Mando getting a jetpack and taking down an Imperial TIE fighter.
Yeah, I mean, it was so good. A little bit expected. I really, really enjoyed that particular scene. The lore is that TIE fighters are short range, they're really powerful, but the difference is the X-Wings can have hyperdrives and are long distance fighters and blah, blah, blah. Some more nerd out for you there. What did you think about that scene in particular?
I mean, it was just really cool. It was really cool to see that, and to I don't know. It was just fun. Like, this entire episode made watching those middle episodes worth it.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I think there are more good than bad episodes. I think there are only 2 boring episodes, and the issue is that they came right after another. Right? It was 4 and 5. Yeah. If this had dropped in a binge scenario, I would not have thought twice about them.
Yeah. So is that it, Ariel? Do you have anything you want to talk about?
I think that's it. I do like, so we know this, right? The Mandalorian. Oh, the Mandalorian's not a race. It's and then he's like, I was like, oh, it's a creed. It's, I think that's important to say for the audience.
Yeah.
I am still a little annoyed that Pedro Pascal does not have his accent. Why cast Pedro Pascal and not let him do his accent?
Does Pedro Pascal have an accent?
I think so. I could be mistaken.
Because I watched a little comedy with him called Bloodsucking Bastards, where he plays a vampire. And, like, a lot of the times I see him with no accent. I also think in Buffy he had no accent when he was in there for an episode.
Yeah, but he is certainly speaking a certain way. Mm-hmm. And I would not have pegged Pedro Pascal to be, to be the stoic character. Like, Keanu? Sure, right?
Right, the white guy. I got you.
No, he's part Asian. What I mean is that, like, he's not known. He's known for his charm, and he's known for all these things. And it's just like, strange. Why would you hire this guy who's known for his charm, who's known, like, I don't know. It's still a little weird to me.
Right.
It's neither here nor there.
Yeah. I mean, they should have gotten the Hound from Game of Thrones, I think.
I don't know who they should have gotten. But a more physical presence. I think it was good. I say that, but apparently the stuntman does most of the work.
I mean, it makes sense.
Yeah, it does. What would you grade this series as a whole?
B.
Yeah, I would agree with you there. I think so a lot of people want to compare this to Firefly. I think if The Mandalorian had a crew from the beginning, and you got a lot more character moments from them, instead of this one stoic guy and these adventures. Because what makes Firefly so special is the crew, not the adventures.
Right.
It's Jane. It's I forget the pilot's name. But it's Gina Torres. It's all these characters. But yeah, I would like to see more of. We're not going to get that because Cara Dune's character is staying on the planet and he's got to go do the thing.
You don't know how much time is going to pass between seasons.
True. Very true. Very true. I would grade it as B. I think this is the only episode where I'm like, man, this is an A+.
Yeah. Yeah. If they were all this quality of episode, I'd be over the moon.
Agreed.
All right. I guess that's it, Ariel.
All right, man. But yeah, if you like this format, let us know what other shows we should be looking at to do to do a weekly recap review. Obviously, it'd have to be a show that comes out weekly and not something like The Witcher, which comes out all at once. But let's get out of here, Andy. Where can people find you online?
You can find me on Twitter at Hebrews Pale Ale.
All right, you can find me at Dread Pirate Roddy. You can find us at Geek 101 Podcast on Twitter and Facebook and Patreon. Email us at geek101pod@gmail.com. That's all we have for today. Class dismissed.